Hey folks, back with another video. Let's dive into what stories got my attention today. Starting with the continuing military campaign that's going on in Ethiopia, a refugee crisis has taken place. Ethiopian refugees are currently flooding into Sudan. With outsiders barred and communications down, it is hard to know how Abey's week-long offensive against the regional ruler and the Tigray People's Liberation Front is progressing. Security sources and state media have have spoken of hundreds of deaths in the mountainous state of more than 5 million people, where federal warplanes have been pounding arms and depots as soldiers fight on the ground. Both sides have claimed successes, including federal troops taking an airport and Tigrayans alleging they downed a jet. But as stated earlier, verification is not possible. The government has confirmed, however, that the TPLF controls a compound of the powerful Northern Command military in Tigray's capital, Mekelle. Ethiopia reached a peace agreement with neighboring Eritrea 2 years ago, for which Abiy won the 2019 Nobel Peace Prize. Abiy's government also has troops deployed in Somalia helping to combat an Islamist insurgency. Now, Sudan said more than 10,000 Ethiopians had already fled across the border. Now, I expect that the Ethiopian government will sue for peace only after they believe that they have won a significant they have won or they've gained significant control of the situation. Moving over to the Caucus region, it seems the agreement to halt the war, which salvaged the remnants of the Armenian-held Karabakh and saved the Armenian population from advancing Azerbaijani forces, has raised only more questions about the status and security of the enclave. The Russian-crafted plan, signed by the Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev, Russian President Vladimir Putin, and Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, is believed to be multifaceted. Now, according to the agreement's terms, a roughly 2,000-strong Russian peacekeeping force is to immediately be deployed to Karabakh, establishing a perimeter to protect and defend the vital Lachin corridor, a lifeline connecting Nagorno-Karabakh to Armenia. Armenia is to withdraw its forces from districts of Azerbaijan beyond the borders of Nagorno-Karabakh. In a staged withdrawal, this initial disengagement is to be followed with the return of the two districts of Kalbajar and Aghdam by November 20th, with a further Armenian pullback from the Lachin district by December 1st. By that time, Russian peacekeepers are to ensure the Armenian use and control of a 5 kilometer wide corridor through Lachin. In a seeming attempt at parity, a similar but much more vague corridor is also stipulated to connect Azerbaijan to its exclave Nakhchivan, which borders Armenia, Iran, and Turkey. The agreement's last point is one of the most potentially significant outcome, as the nature of such an Azerbaijani connection through Armenian territory remains unclear and undefined, raising potentially dangerous questions over sovereignty, legal standing, and policing. Although all sides seem to have accepted the Russia's crafted agreement under differing degrees of duress or discomfort, for the democratically elected leaders of Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh, there was little choice and no alternative. The Azerbaijani capture of the strategic city of Sushi, the second largest in Karabakh, was a pivotal tipping point. Now, as the Karabakh Armenians lost the city, the magnitude of the disaster became clear. Retreating to Karabakh's capital, Stepanakert, leaders in both Karabakh and Armenia came to the painful realization that in order to save the remaining civilians and salvage what remained of Karabakh, there was little alternative but to accept the terms of the agreement imposed and demanded by Moscow. The terms of this new agreement grant Russia the most important of Moscow's objective, a dominant military presence on the ground. The prior lack of any direct military presence in Nagorno-Karabakh is one of the most distinctive aspects of the Karabakh conflict, standing in stark contrast to every other such conflict within the former Soviet Union. The absence was a long-standing irritant for Moscow, reflecting the limit of Russia's capacity for effective power projection and influence. But with this elusive goal now met, Russian peacekeepers are now central to the credibility and sustainability of the new peace deal, thereby granting Moscow an even more decisive role in the region. Personally, I have more faith in this agreement as I believe that the war had started to take a turn that could have become a decisive victory for one and failure and loss for the other. On top of that is the fact that Armenia's army has also agreed to the pushing for the deal, a peace deal, which means that the deal is here to stay. And of course, in the whole, all of this, I believe that Russia will take some kind of prestige points on this issue. It will gain more, let's just say, international credibility for the for some time. Let's just say that. Moving on to Mozambique. In the past 2 weeks, the extremists have seized 9 towns in the Muidumbe district of Cabo Delgado, extending their range from the port of Mocimboa de Pereira, which they have held since August, according to reports in local media. Capturing the town of Muatide, the insurgents established a center on a soccer pitch where they beheaded more than 50 people, according to Pinnacle News, which has correspondents throughout the province. The rebels had abducted 15 boys undergoing traditional initiation rites and their 5 counselors. All 20 were beheaded, along with another 9 people, Pinnacle News reported on November 2nd. Now, the extremists went on to cut off the heads of 31 more people, which Pinnacle reported on November 7th. Mozambique's government has not confirmed the killings, but Luis Fernando Lisboa, the Roman Catholic Bishop of Pemba, the provincial capital, said this week he had confirmed with a number of sources the report of the killings of the boys at the initiation ceremony. He said it was impossible to say how many had been beheaded in total, according to an interview with the German broadcaster Deutsche Welle. The extremists' 3-year insurgency in Cabo Delgado has claimed the lives of more than 2,200 people, according to the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project. More than 355,000 have been forced to leave their homes, the UN's Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said at the end of October. Now, this is a significant escalation of violence in Mozambique, and I think the international community. This is not just an international community's problem. I would pin the blame squarely on the Islamists first, but also on the Mozambique's government for not handling this in the most. They've mismanaged the situation, making it far worse than it already is. Moving on, it has been reported that 4 people were wounded in an explosion on Wednesday at the non-Muslim cemetery in Saudi Arabia's Jeddah during a ceremony commemorating the armistice marking the end of the World War I. The event at the coastal city's Khwajat Cemetery included diplomats from several European countries. It's not clear if any officials present were among those wounded. A Greek official told Reuters 4 people had been wounded. Now, according to Saudi news site Al Arabiya, an employee of the Greek embassy and a Saudi Arabian security guard were among those wounded. But the cemetery had been secured and the situation is currently stable. In the aftermath of Wednesday's attack, the French embassy in the UAE also called on its citizens to be vigilant in case of further incidents. Several countries are marking the 102nd anniversary of the armistice signed by the German and allied countries to end the war. The tension between the Islamists and the West will be with us for some time. However, I believe that once the Muslim politicians end their tacit or implicit support of the Islamists, and once the politicians come out and denounce the Islamists and their terrorism directly, the Islamists will continue to cause havoc in the future. Moving on, it seems that China is, in specific, the Beijing, the Chinese Communist Party, is pushing forward with this agenda into Hong Kong. Hong Kong disqualified 4 opposition members of its legislatures on Wednesday shortly after the Chinese parliament adopted a resolution allowing the city's executive to expel legislators without having to go through the courts. So we're not even gonna have the kangaroo courts, which, congratulations. The expulsions came shortly after China's parliament adopted a resolution allowing the city's executives to expel legislators deemed to be supporting Hong Kong independence, colluding with foreign forces, or threatening national security without having to go through the courts. The 19 pan-democratic members of the 70-seat city legislatures on Monday threatened to resign en masse if any of them was disqualified, saying that would reflect their unity and show how far Beijing was willing to go to crush opposition. While the city's legislative council is controlled by the pro-Beijing camp, the resignations of its pro-democracy lawmakers would turn it into a rubber stamp. The opposition members have tried to make a stand against what many people in the former British colony see as Beijing's tightening grip over the financial hub, despite a promise of a high degree of autonomy. Naturally, Beijing denies encroaching on Hong Kong's freedoms, but authorities in Hong Kong and Beijing have moved swiftly to stifle dissent after anti-government protests flared in June last year and plunged the city into crisis. Now, of course, Hong Kong has been the centerpiece that has caused the rift between the West and Beijing, and subsequently, the pandemic has completely pushed the West and Beijing on the brink of a war. While currently the focus of the world has shifted to internal US politics, once the matters cool and become clear in the US domestic politics, I believe we can see what the new administration, whichever, will deal with the problem that is Beijing. Well, that's it for this video. If you liked the video, then hit that like button and hit that subscribe button for future updates. Write in the comments your thoughts, criticism, and anything I might have missed. And I will see you in the next video.